Russian President Vladimir Putin has thrown down a challenge that feels ripped straight from the pages of a modern geopolitical thriller. By offering the United States a tantalizing proposal for joint ventures in the exploration and development of rare earth minerals and aluminum supplies, Putin is not just trading raw materials, he's playing a high-stakes game of resource chess. Rare earth minerals are not rare in the traditional sense. Instead, they are a collection of 17 elements that form the backbone of modern technology. From smartphones and electric vehicles to advanced military systems. Despite their ubiquity in the tech supply chain, these minerals are concentrated in a few countries, with China historically dominating their production and supply. This concentration gives China an outsized influence on global technological progress and national security frameworks, creating a strategic vulnerability for other nations, particularly the United States. In response, Washington has embarked on a determined quest to diversify its supply chain. Efforts to secure alternative sources of these minerals have become a cornerstone of U.S. industrial and defense policy, especially as tensions with China simmer over trade, technology, and territorial disputes. It is against this backdrop that Putin's proposal emerges, an offer that seems at first glance to be an olive branch meant to serve mutual economic interests, yet bristles with layers of strategic maneuvering. On February 24th, in a move that captured global attention, Putin publicly extended an invitation to the United States for joint ventures in the exploration of Russia's vast rare earth deposits. According to the proposal, Russia, long acknowledged as having some of the world's richest mineral reserves, wishes to share these assets with American partners. In his characteristically measured tone, Putin noted that Russia's reserves far exceed those of Ukraine, hinting at the significant untapped potential that could fuel technological innovation and national defense initiatives. The promise of access to these rare earth elements is particularly enticing for a U.S. administration eager to lessen its reliance on China. Given that rare earths play a crucial role in the manufacturing of everything from precision-guided munitions to renewable energy technologies, securing a diversified supply could provide the U.S. with a strategic edge in both economic and military domains. Complementing the offer for rare earth minerals is another element of the proposal that has its own appeal: aluminum. Putin's proposal includes a commitment to supply up to 2 million tons of aluminum annually to the U.S. market. However, this element of the proposal carries additional weight as it represents a potential thaw in trade relations that have been strained by previous sanctions and tariffs. In addition to straightforward supply promises, the proposal hints at broader industrial collaborations. Projects in hydropower generation and aluminum production in Siberia are floated as part of an integrated strategy. The estimated investment potential for these joint ventures is a staggering $15 billion, an infusion of capital that could stimulate economic activity in regions long left on the periphery of global markets. At its core, Putin's proposal is a masterclass in the subtle art of diplomatic leverage. By extending the hand of cooperation on economic fronts, Russia is seeking to reshape its global image, positioning itself not merely as an adversary to be contained, but as a partner capable of contributing to the technological and industrial progress of its counterparts. For the U.S., this represents a double-edged sword. On one side lies the pragmatic appeal of diversifying supply chains. On the other, the risk of engaging with a geopolitical rival whose strategic intentions are as opaque as they are opportunistic. As global dependencies could be weaponized, having multiple reliable sources of critical materials is nothing short of essential. The potential access to Russian rare earth minerals and aluminum promise to bolster U.S. capabilities in high-tech manufacturing, national defense, and emerging renewable energy sectors. Yet, the allure of economic gain is inextricably linked to the peril of political entanglement. Engaging with Russia on such a sensitive matter poses immediate risks, not least the possibility of undermining long-standing alliances. American decision-makers are well aware that any overt partnership with Russia could send shockwaves through NATO and other allied organizations, potentially weakening the unified front against Russian expansionism in other parts of the globe. Moreover, there is the inherent danger of dependency. While diversification is the goal, reliance on Russian resources could inadvertently create new vulnerabilities. Should Russia decide to leverage its control over these critical minerals for political leverage, the U.S. might find itself caught in a web of dependency that is as strategic as it is precarious. The proposal arrives at a time when U.S.-Russia relations are already a tangled mess of sanctions, diplomatic spats, and mutual distrust. Engaging in joint ventures in the mining sector would require a recalibration of the sanctions regime, a move that could have far-reaching implications for other areas of bilateral relations. The State and Treasury departments have been tasked with drafting potential frameworks for easing these restrictions, but any such move would likely be met with skepticism from European allies and domestic critics alike. It's a classic strategic dilemma. The potential economic benefits must be carefully weighed against the broader geopolitical fallout. In essence, the U.S. is faced with a high-wire balancing act, where one misstep could result in not only economic disruption, but also reconfiguration of international alliances and power dynamics. Complicating the landscape further is Ukraine's significant reserve of rare earth minerals. The U.S. has been in negotiations with Kyiv to secure access to these critical resources, a move that is intended to both support Ukraine's struggling economy and bolster America's strategic reserves. However, these discussions have been anything but straightforward. Ukrainian leaders, particularly President Vladimir Zelensky, have been adamant that any deal must come with robust security guarantees, an understandable stance in a country that has been at the front lines of conflict and aggression. The negotiations with Ukraine have been marred by delays, disagreements over resource sharing, and the absence of clear security assurances. For Ukraine, the stakes are existential. The country's mineral wealth represents not only an economic lifeline, but also a bargaining chip in its ongoing struggle against external aggression. Consequently, Zelensky's cautious approach has slowed progress, inadvertently giving more weight to Russia's offer. From an American perspective, the impasse with Ukraine creates a strategic opening. With Russia's offer on the table, U.S. policymakers are presented with an alternative that, on paper, seems to offer immediate access to the resources the country so desperately needs. Yet, this is far from a simple trade-off. The decision to lean on Russian supplies over Ukrainian ones carries profound ethical and political ramifications, particularly given the backdrop of Russian military actions and ongoing tensions in Eastern Europe. In many ways, the Ukraine factor transforms the debate from one of pure economics into a broader moral and strategic question. Is the short-term benefit of diversified resource supplies worth the long-term risk of compromising support for a beleaguered ally? The answer, as with many issues in geopolitics, is anything but straightforward. The U.S. drive to secure critical minerals is rooted in the need for economic resilience. With the global economy becoming increasingly intertwined and vulnerable to supply chain disruptions, ensuring a diversified portfolio of resources is a matter of national security. Rare earth minerals and aluminum are not mere commodities. They are the building blocks of a modern industrial economy, powering everything from renewable energy installations to cutting-edge military technologies. For American industries, the prospect of tapping into Russia's vast mineral wealth could translate into lower costs, increased competitiveness, and a more robust supply chain. This economic argument is bolstered by the estimated $15 billion in potential investments in related infrastructure and industrial projects. Such an influx of capital could rejuvenate regions that have long been on the periphery of the global economy, providing new jobs and stimulating technological innovation. Yet the path to economic benefit is littered with potential pitfalls. Integrating Russian mineral resources into U.S. supply chains is not as simple as signing a handshake deal. There are numerous logistical challenges, from transportation bottlenecks in remote Siberian regions to the complex regulatory frameworks that govern cross-border trade in strategic commodities. Moreover, any attempt to ease sanctions or alter the existing regulatory landscape would likely provoke backlash from both domestic political factions and international partners. The U.S. would need to navigate a labyrinth of legal, environmental, and bureaucratic hurdles to ensure that the economic benefits of such a deal are not outweighed by the operational and regulatory costs. For American diplomats, the decision to move forward with any potential partnership with Russia involves walking a proverbial tightrope. On one hand, there is the undeniable allure of diversifying resource supplies and strengthening domestic industries. On the other hand, any such move risks alienating key allies and potentially emboldening adversaries. The diplomatic calculus is further complicated by the need to maintain a robust sanctions regime against Russia, a tool that has been wielded to signal disapproval of its aggressive actions on the international stage. Navigating this tightrope requires a nuanced approach, one that is both pragmatic and principled. U.S. officials must weigh the immediate benefits of economic collaboration against the potential long-term cost to national security and international credibility. It is a challenge that demands not only strategic foresight, but also a willingness to engage in a delicate dance of negotiation and compromise. Putin's minerals gambit is far more than a mere economic proposal. It's a masterstroke of strategic maneuvering that tempts the U.S. with access to Russia's vast rare earth reserves and an annual supply of 2 million tons of aluminum, promising a potential $15 billion injection into industries from high-tech manufacturing to defense. Yet, this enticing offer is deeply entangled in a web of geopolitical risks, threatening to destabilize long-standing alliances, complicate delicate resource negotiations with Ukraine, and create new dependencies that could undermine U.S. strategic autonomy, making every mineral a high-stakes pawn in a global chess game where economic progress and political leverage hang in the balance.